Watch my life pass me by, never knowing where I belong in a web of love and lies. As you string me along, and I can't breathe, I can't see. I'm losing sight of everything. I feel the walls closing in, closing in. I'm falling apart. Oh, I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free. Think I'm falling apart. Oh, I just wanna be free, free. Watch my life pass me by, never knowing where I belong in a web of love and lies. As you string me along, and I can't breathe, I can't see. I'm losing sight of everything. I feel the walls closing in, closing in. I feel I'm falling apart. I feel I'm falling apart.
All I really wanna know is, will you be mine? And all I really think about.
Wyatt Tinsley sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barbizzel FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Oh, get your foot there.
He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No.
Canvas is in.
The brand new GTP class has not disappointed. But last round's opener at Daytona sits in quite a bit of contrast to Sebring when it comes to the interplay of the various classes. And if that doesn't catch you out, there's still the bumps to tackle. Will our drivers rise up to the challenge? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on FDF.GG. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson. Joey, I know you've had a chance to race on this track as well. This is going to be a doozy for these drivers.
It is a bumpy racetrack. It's great for mixed class racing. That's exactly what we're going to see here tonight. But Sebring International Raceway, just a really quick rundown, located in Sebring, 17 turns, 3.7 miles. We've seen some of the best endurance multi-class racing come out of this place. So I can't wait to see what Autobahn brings with their mixed class GTPs, LMP2s, GT3s. It is going to be a busy racetrack.
Absolutely. And, well, they're getting ready to grid up here in just a second, but it thankfully is not quite as big of a grid as what we had at Daytona. So hopefully that should lessen some of the chaos that we see here. So as we go through our starting order for this one, Max Muir is on the pole for those GTPs. It is going to be Nathan Dowd starting in second and Dominic Dornenberg in P3. After that, David Shutt will start from fourth position. Eric Thomas will be P5. Paul Gibson starts from sixth. Then it's going to be Josh Lane in seventh and Kevin Binkley in P8. Dawson Brock starts ninth today. He'll be followed by Jimbo Pfeiffer in 10th. And Eddie Layton rounds out your GTP field in 11th, with David Williams having not set a time starting from 12th. Joey?
And then in the LMP2 class, your pole sitter is Jeffrey Ooms. Carter Kundinger lined up P2 in class. Alex Caruso third in class there. Robert Tinsey fourth. Robert Cast fifth. Thomas Fisher in sixth. Bradley Haley seventh in class. Vance Bow eighth in class down there. Brian Bennett, 9th in the LMP2s. Adam Satterfield, 10th. Paul Slavonic lined up 11th in the LMP2s. Andrew Lunsford, 12th. And then there was one LMP2 car that did not set a time. That is Billy Smith.
Then you've got Young Park, last time's winner in the GTD Pros, starting on the pole there. Ed Eisenring will be on his outside, but will be our pole sitter for the GTD AMs. Michael Marlowe will be starting second in the GTD Pros, but third overall. Then in fourth, it's Ryan Robertson, with fifth going to Justin Rector. Eric Starapoli, starts in sixth. Floyd Kerr will be P7. You have to go all the way down to eighth for Franco Margarella, the second in the AMs. Third is Turner Schroll. He'll be ninth overall in the GTD. Then 10th goes to Mark Godrowski. 11th will be Nicholas Davis. Shane Hunter starts in the 12th position. Tom Hammond will be lucky number 13, followed by Dale Green to his outside. Dean Kerr starts in 15th. Jar Alvarado will be in 16th and James Stacy 17th. On his outside, he'll find Chris Sherburne. Sean Reese starts 19th. Sheldon Rosenbaum 20th. 21st is Trent Brown. And then finally, the field is rounded out by William Brennan. 47 cars going to be starting this one. So just a few less. Still a large field out here. We'll get a full pace lap to try and get the cars ready to go here, Joey. And you mentioned it's known for its multi-class racing, but where are some of the trouble areas you foresee in trying to deal with those slower classes?
All over. If you're not dealing with a different class, you're dealing with the racetrack. Even you, by itself, on Sebring, you have to attack this place. It is known for the bumps. One of the taglines is respect the bumps. Even in turn one, this place is extremely fast. It is very bumpy right in the middle and then really, really bumpy on the exit. It also leads into a really, really good passing opportunity down there in turn three. So I think some of the areas on this racetrack, Joe, a little bit wider like we're seeing here in turn one. You can go up to 5 wide, potentially even more. You just have to be careful about when it gets narrow. It really narrows up turn 3. It really narrows up turn 5. Turn 7, the hairpin, always a classic passing opportunity. And then we're going to be talking about it all day long into turn 17, which is down off of that back straightaway. It provides the cars a little bit of a slipstream, a little bit of a draft to help with that toe to provide that passing opportunity on the brakes into that last corner.
Now, the other difference this race will have compared to last time that we haven't mentioned, this is a 60-minute race today. Last time out, it was 90 minutes, so that was their endurance format. This will only see one scheduled pit stop unless you run into trouble out there. Hopefully, that won't be an issue. They still don't have any fast repairs, but also they have fewer incident points. Now, also fewer in compared to previous seasons as well. They used to have 24 incident points before they got penalized, Joey. It's down to 20 now, so they have to be even safer out there.
You got to respect all of your competitors on the racetrack. Sometimes it's easier said than done, especially here in the virtual world, but we're going to see what it's like. I know that these more aggressive GTP drivers, you can make a ton of time in traffic just being a little bit more aggressive. But what you said, with that incident limit lowered, the consequences, they're a little bit more steep. So what do? Do you make friends out on the racetrack? Or are you a little bit more aggressive? It'll be interesting to see everybody and how they play it out.
Now, you might notice that the front row of the grid is both Cadillacs. Even third goes to a Caddy until you finally get to fourth for the first non-Cadillac car, that the BMW of David Schutt going to be starting back there. They're still obviously the most popular car, as you can see in that prototype grid, now that they've got all different kinds of makes that you can choose from at the highest level here in sports cars on iRacing. But there's just a couple Porsches, there's an Acura, and there is that BMW out there. So it's certainly going to be heavily weighted towards the Caddy brand. Also down in the GTD class, it is a lot of Porsches at the front, 3 of them, in fact, until, again, you have to wait until you get to a BMW to break the trend with Ryan Robertson. So it does look like Porsche is the car to have this time out over in the GT cars, but up in the prototypes, Cadillac seems to have the sway over the field as the drivers take off on their split start. They will have a separated start to help them out, Joey, and make sure that they don't trip over each other.
It's just trying to help everybody. What they'll do is they'll release the GTP cars. The LMP2 field, they'll lag a little bit behind, usually about 20 seconds or so, 30 seconds. And that allows this GTP field to kind of race it out. If there's an incident in turn 1, it allows those competitors to get clear of the racetrack by the time the next class comes around. You kind of see them already stacked up in their different classes as we head down into the hairpin. And then we'll once again see that between the LMP2 and the GTD field. You'll see about a 30-second gap there, and that once again just provides that little bit of an opportunity if there is an incident early on to clear the racing line before the next class approaches that section of the racetrack.
This is a morning start for this race as well. It's just a little past 11, so it's a somewhat cooler track at 87 Fahrenheit. A little bit warm compared to some, but cool enough, I think, that it shouldn't be an issue. Just a tiny bit of wind shouldn't cause them too much of a concern as long as it doesn't buffet and change directions on them. I don't believe that 38% humidity in Florida, though. It should be higher than that if you ask me. But the sim seems to think that that's going to be a good temperature here down in Sebring. Also, I was taking a look at our starting order compared to the points for the LMP2 class. Top 3 are exactly as they sit in the points. Ooms, Kundinger, Crusoe. Actually, scratch that. Ooms and Kundinger are switched around, but same 3 cars that we've got. And Carter Kundinger and Jeffrey Ooms have usually been 2 of the quick drivers here. So watch out for them, Joey. I have a feeling they're going to be major players all season long.
The other one to note on that GTD poll, Young Park, he was also the winner back at Daytona. You got to be careful when you get the momentum going, especially with these black and green cars, these composite team cars. They do a ton of practice. I know it's a big group of them. They really take this quite seriously in their preparation, their setups. And right now, it looks like they got a lot going for them.
Well, they're going to have to get going soon because we're coming down the Ullman Straight up towards Sunset Bend. And after that, they're going to be released and start racing for 60 minutes. Already, the LMP2's weaving around a lot to try and get some heat in those tires and prep them Will they have enough down through turn 1 to keep everything steady? Because it's going to be very bumpy, and if you have cold tires, that will not be fun. Much more steady here for these GTPs. Not a lot of weaving for them down the back stretch. They seem to feel confident that they're good to go as the Porsche pace car now peels in, and it is under control of Max Muir. There is the green flag, and away he goes. Bad start for Nathan Dowd, though. He's swamped on either side, and it looks like it's going to be Dornenberg who manages to get to his inside down towards turn 1, and he's going to claim that second spot. Schutt goes a little bit wide as they fly out of the first corner. So far, so good. Let's go to the LMP2s.
They're sweeping through turn number 1 right now. Ooms had a great start, but it's all about Alex Caruso. He has jumped Carter Kundinger in that second place position, so Carter falls a little bit too wide. Further back, let's check the GT3s now.
It's Young Park who gets a very good start ahead of the field, but we got a car tipped around back here. It looks like Justin Rector unfortunately turned around along with Ryan Robertson. It appears to be falling down the order. They're both going to get turned around without a heavy hit, but they fall to the very tail end.
Yeah, just so unfortunate there. It was actually a little bit of a 3-car incident. I think Ryan Robertson definitely got the bad end of the stick on that one, but you see the Porsche, that is Young Park out front. That is your Daytona winner, your pole sitter already stretching it.
And Eisenring holds on to that second place as well. Remember, that's your AM leader all the way up to P2 overall with about 3 or 4 cars between himself and Franco Margarella, who's going to try and chase him down. We'll see if that changes as the race carries on. But these GTD AMs and GTD Pros will race mixed. There is nothing that says they have to give way to one another.
No, it's just kind of everybody's out there. There sure is a driver separation in terms of the rating, but guess what? The cars are the same. Everybody's in the same equipment. It's just kind of you go out there and compete against the best no matter what the rating is.
Absolutely. And they will work their way through Bishop here, but it is going to be Muir who continues to lead the way up in the prototypes, and he's getting right up against the wall on turn in here through turn 1. Dornenberg has managed to also escape, but David Schutt back there, who we saw briefly, is basically a train of cars trailing him.
Yes, he has, what, about 8 cars right behind him. You see this black and red. It's that PG-13 racing car, and David Schutt, remember, he did extremely well at Daytona as well. He was standing on the podium, P2 back there, so we'll have to see if his car maybe warms up a little bit or if he's just lacking a little pace early.
Right now he's doing a good job of at least managing things. Gibson, Dowd, Thomas all behind him, breathing down his neck here, but we're only on lap 2 and we haven't even met the traffic yet. That could definitely shake things up, but they're going to weave up through Collier at this stage, one of the tightest parts of the track, down into the tricky braking of Tower.
It is a very tricky turn, a lot of bumps there at Apex. I've mentioned the bumps pre-race. They are all over this racetrack, so you're just going to have to deal with them. You're going to have to live with them for another 56 minutes.
Up into the braking of Jean Debienne, as it's a quick, swift flick right and then left, and that leads you straight into Le Mans, onto the Ullman Straight, one of the most critical corner exits on the track. So far, so good for everyone. Muir almost 2 seconds ahead of the entire GTP field at this stage, so he's definitely managing things himself. Let's take a glance back at the LMP2s while things are still calm up here, where Jeffrey Ooms has the upper hand over Caruso, and Kundinger has fallen off of the second place there since the start.
It's a little bit more spread out in LMP2, you're right. Jeffrey Ooms was the pole sitter, and he got a great start. He's just started to run away, and Alex Caruso swept away that P2 position from Carter Kundinger on that first lap, and he settled in very nicely with a really good race pace. So it'll be interesting as Carter Kundinger maybe saving a little bit of fuel back there in third place, or if he's maybe struggling early on. Remember, we're only 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes into this. Drivers, they're still getting into a rhythm.
Caruso only has 1 podium so far, and that was last week, so he's wanting to add to that tally. In fact, let me double check to see if he has any more starts than just last week here in a moment, because not a name that I completely recognize in the series, but I did miss a couple seasons of coverage, so could have more that I just wasn't aware of. Right now, sitting in second, certainly not doing him any harm.
Oh, and way back in the GT3 field, there is a bunch of different stuff going on. I'm seeing Trent Brown fall a little bit down through the order and 39th overall. That was through Sunset Bend. He got pushed way wide, had a few cars come in, but check this out, Joe. This is way far back in the GT3 field. Doesn't matter if it's up front or in the AMs, tons of people to race with.
Indeed, and side by side coming down into the braking of turn 3 is going to give these guys plenty of action here. Then 4 and 5 as it switches back and forth down here at the back of the pack. Sherburne doing a good job of getting himself in front of Kerr. Not really under threat in that Audi currently, but Dean racing in his Ferrari, trying his best to play catch up, while at the same time fending off Ryan Robertson behind him, who is making up for that opening incident.
And Joe, what I'm seeing here, this is the tail end of the GT3 cars, right? This is a pretty condensed pack. I look at our GTP leader, he's coming up to the hairpin right now. So that's not going to be very long before we're going to get that mixed class traffic, that multi-class racing, and it's going to be straight into the deep end with a lot of traffic.
Robertson having a bit more trouble trying to climb back through compared to Rector, who's already up to 14th overall in the GTDs, but Rector racing in the pro class, so he has a long ways to go to get to his own field within those GTDs. But this is Muir on your screen up through Collier. Like you said, maybe 2 or 3 more laps and he'll have caught Sean Reese at the back end of that. I did check, and it looks like Caruso did have his first race last time, so podium on his very first attempt is certainly pretty good. We've got a battle for third, though, here for the GTDs. This is, I believe, GTD Pro, actually, that we're seeing this battle for third.
Yeah, this is Floyd Kerr chasing the number 993 Eric Staropoli here. As we round out of turn 1, you see the cars really absorb those bumps on the exit, and a composite car right in front of us. That's Michael Marlowe. I think he's trying to get around for what is an AM class car, so it's not necessarily for position. This is kind of that multi-class racing, but they're all in the same GT3 class. You see Marlowe already flashing the lights. He wants by.
Yeah, and Ed might want to let him through if he doesn't feel like this is worth his time. In fact, he is going to slow up a little bit, or is he trying to defend and just doesn't have the brakes? Oh, slamming into the side of Staropoli. He is going to stay ahead. Now Eric is under the gun because Kerr is trying to come underneath him, but doesn't look like there's an opening through Fangio for him to try and sneak that car through. Both of them looking down the inside of Cunningham to no avail.
Oh, I got a nice grin on my face watching these cars kind of poke the nose down into turn 10, and here we go around through the tower turn. Let's see how they handle the bumps. Everybody gets through the apex and puts the power down quite nicely. It's okay if you run 2 wheels out in the dirt right there, just as long as you don't engage that traction control, kind of halt your progress.
All 4 in a line, and I mean, they're not too far from Franco Margarella, which is probably why Ed maybe doesn't want to give up that as much. He can give away 1 or 2 positions, but I think he'd prefer to keep a buffer between himself and the number 11 car, because that is the battle within his own class. And down the long Ullman straight, nobody seems to have gotten any sort of edge over one another.
No, but just give it another lap, Joe. I'm seeing our leader. He is in the GTP field right now, or I should say GTD field, and he is already making his way through that. So, Floyd Kerr getting really aggressive. I'm sorry to be jumping around back here, but this was that battle we were just watching. He's down to the inside of Eric. He's going to try to keep the BMW tucked through the apex here. It's all about the rolling speed, and now he puts himself nicely on the left side of the racetrack here for turn 3.
Just enough space down to the inside, and Staropoli has to let him go. So the BMW moves up into 4th overall, but that's onto the podium for the GTD Pros. Next on his list is Ed Eisenring, like I was talking about before, in his Porsche, who is on the overall podium but is leading in the AM category as they break down into the hairpin.
I love this GT3 field, GTD field, whatever you want to call it. You were talking about the different manufacturers, BMWs, Porsches. It really does seem Porsche dominant up front, but I think that's kind of horses for different courses out here. Here at Sebring, we're seeing a lot of these Porsches up here.
They're closely followed by the BMWs because, yes, we've got 3 Porsches in the top 4, but there's also 3 BMWs in the top 6. So it's pretty evenly split between the 2 manufacturers at this stage. And it's getting a little bit more even between Franco Margarelli and Turner Schroll fighting for second in GTD AM. Turner is starting to turn up the heat, I guess.
And not too far behind, here comes that GTP leader. See if they can get through turn 16. This is always such a tricky turn. You know, it looks really really easy, but it actually has a slight bank on exit. You come over a crest and there's no grip out there whatsoever whenever you try to put the power down.
Gap is down to 0.7 of a second, so I think Muir has lost a little bit in this traffic. Oh gosh, it scares me every time I see those prototypes do that down into Sunset Bend, but he knows what he's doing, and he's going to be able to make it by all that pack of cars as they split on either side here and almost coming together on the exit as well. This is a battle in the prototypes a little farther down.
This is for 6th place, I believe. This is Eric Thomas on driver's right side. He's getting overtaken by Kevin Binkley into turn number 1. He's going to try to pull an over-under, get the nose into turn number 3 here. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to get there. Kevin Binkley moves up into 6th.
Some fantastic trust, not just between these drivers in GTP, but themselves and the GTD class there, as they split on either side around one of the fastest corners on the track. Going to see if he can catch him back up here. Binkley now setting off after Dowd as well into the braking zone. Looks like Dowd is just going to be able to squeeze through, but they're going to have to go 3 wide potentially. He definitely gets checked up there as here comes Binkley. He's going to be able to sneak by as well, but can he actually make a move down into Cunningham? Doesn't look like it this time.
I mentioned how narrow this racetrack gets. Well, look what happens when you stack the GT3 cars next to each other. It pretty much is a track blockage in some of these areas. Heading into the tower turn, all of these GTP cars trying to figure out which way to go. They got nowhere to go.
Whoa, almost 4 wide there for a brief moment, and somehow they made it work. That was Eisenring losing the spot to Steripoli as Steripoli moves into 4th overall, but takes off after that podium position. That was Joshua Lane chasing on Eric Thomas and Dawson Brock that made that 4 wide move work somehow.
I love this racetrack when you put this many cars out here, and so far it seems like everybody's been pretty respectful in terms of having no contact. We'll see if it continues. 47 minutes left.
Kundinger and Caruso. Whoa, actually we got a spin here. Coming out through Sunset Bend, that was Steripoli losing out on the rear grip of the Porsche. Easy to do with that car.
And this was an interesting incident here, Joe. It actually started from, I believe, Floyd Kerr way in the back in that BMW. Just punted a Porsche that then got into Steripoli. So pretty interesting. It came from way far back on this one.
So down into the turn. Ooh, did he get some help? Did he get shoved into there by the car behind, though?
Yes. So Floyd Kerr in that BMW was 3rd in train. He got into the Porsche, this silver and red Porsche that then got into Steripoli.
Well, that changed things up dramatically. Also, Caruso, who took 2nd early on, has Kundinger all over the back of him. That's what I was trying to mention before things erupted out through Sunset Bend. And you can see them still fighting for the spot. Caruso going defensive while also trying to overtake Dale Green. He's going to get through there, but Kundinger gets a great exit.
Yeah, he's going to have an opportunity here into turn number 10. Unfortunately, Caruso already defensive, so Alex on the proper side to go and really defend this turn 10 corner. Carter's got to take the long way around, and there's just not the grip here at Sebring. Kind of regather it up, look for a new opportunity.
Alex doing a great job on that defense. That was Thomas Fisher that we saw off the hairpin, unfortunately. Didn't see what caused it, but at least he's got the car going once again. And again, this is for 2nd and 3rd up in the LMP2s. They've already lost about 4 seconds. Well, up to our leader. Another big moment, almost another 4 wide moment. Look at that! Kundinger slicing around the outside.
Yeah, it looks like maybe that's Nicholas Davis that got spun around there. And This is that multi-class traffic. GTPs, LMP2s, I mentioned, if you're more aggressive through traffic, you can make a ton of time. And look at what Carter did. He's already put 1.2 seconds on Alex Caruso, who he was chasing.
So that incident was a bizarre one that started with Schroll having contact with Ed Eisenring, and Nicholas Davis ran into him at full tilt. Unfortunately, the car was limping, and he was just trying to get it back home. Sounds like we might actually have the replay ready on that. Let's take a look at it.
You're right, Joe. This was very interesting. We had there's the big incident. Oh,
I'd say that was the big incident, honestly.
I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah, just absolutely smashed into the outside wall. And so that's why you saw him spinning back across the track. He was trying to get it back to pit lane. And unfortunately, no wonder it was so damaged. It just could not drive straight.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I thought he did a great job here. There is a whole secondary incident that comes in right here, and that's where Carter was just able to slice through. So, yes, okay, he did spin back across the racetrack there with heavy damage, but thankfully didn't include or affect anybody else.
He did eventually make it back to pit lane, but man, what a bad end to this race for him. As we mentioned, they don't have a spare car waiting for them. So that damage is just going to force him to sit and get it repaired in pit lane. Meanwhile, Muir is about 2.2 seconds ahead of Dornenberg. This is Max on screen right now. Dornenberg also pulling away from Schutt. So it's kind of a battle between these two at this stage with the best pace.
I was looking at that. Yeah, it's kind of a couple seconds between each class lead and kind of P2 out there. And remember, we got pit stops to go here at Sebring. So some of these cars, if you're more aggressive in traffic, sure, you can make up that lap time, you can make up that track position. But if you're not quite as aggressive, if you're a little bit more conservative, you can save a little bit more fuel, which can then benefit you in the pit stop.
That's a good point. But we still have a ways to go. And if I recall correctly from last week, the pit window was a lot wider than we thought it would be, as we're going to go side by side down the front stretch as this Staropoli once again. I think he made one more move back up to where he was before.
Going to be a busy racetrack as we watch more of these LMP2 cars dice through the GTD field. The Porsche seems to be absorbing those curbs pretty nicely. Here at Sebring, that's really, really important. You don't want a car that's too stiffly sprung, or I shouldn't say too stiffly sprung, I should say too harsh on the ride.
And usually the Porsche not known for liking the curbs that much. As much as I love this battle, we might want to move to second here in the GTDs because Floyd Kerr has caught Marlowe, and they've got some of the leaders in the prototype starting to come through. This could get very complicated very quick, including some car contact there.
Yeah, that was between one of the satellite racing cars. That was Robert Tinsey and also Michael Marlowe. And here comes Floyd Kerr. A nice slice move down to the inside of turn number 10. Also puts the power down. Here comes another LMP2. That was an excellent move.
Barely enough space for him to get by, but he made it stick, and Marlowe has no answer, at least for now. Another of those prototypes coming through Satterfield, trying to wait patiently for the right moment, and he's going to just get in between the pair of them and hope for a good exit. Not a very good one, frankly. It looks like behind him, Vance Bow with a much better run.
What kind of slipstream they can get headed down here into turn number 17. Looks like Vance Bow will be able to hold him off for now, but you're right. Paul Slavonic having a really, really nice run here. See what he can do. Oh, Bow with a big old wiggle coming out of 17. This just might give Slavonic an opportunity.
And that's actually Bow and Satterfield there. Satterfield in the 13. It's okay. There's a lot going on out there right now. Bow is getting awful close to him as they break down into turn 3, but not quite close enough. Another one of those spots where you're talking about those tall curbs on either side to watch out for, and certainly a better exit onto Big Bend for Satterfield.
You got to be careful headed down here into the hairpin. You see the GTD car slice onto the racing line. LMP2 now be able to get to the inside, but once again, just able to put the power down. Satterfield able to squirt away just a little bit.
Sure, this will keep going for quite some time. especially as they potentially get caught by the GTP category as well, because this is down in those LMP2s. So when they get those cars coming by, it's going to be even more tricky since they're much closer on pace to one another. Down towards Bishop, they are trying to catch up with Robert Cast up ahead of them to see if they can get into the top 5. 20 minutes into this thing, we're already a third of the way through.
And I was looking, there's not very many retirements. I think I see one car that's officially out of the race, maybe a couple cars that are a lap down deep in that GTD field. So we still have, I'm seeing 43 cars on the racetrack.
Yeah, love to see that we've only lost one for officially and 2 that are still taking the fixes down in pit lane. Ooh, this is getting tight here, coming down the Ullman straight up towards Sunset Bend. Lumpsford versus Bradley Haley and Thomas Fisher. Still not used to seeing Bradley Haley fighting for these farther down positions, but it looks like he hasn't lost the edge. He's got a great run down the main straight.
I think it just goes to show you the competition here in Autobahn as we're going to go too wide here into turn 1. Oh, sweeping around the outside there. Bradley Haley is able to get it done.
Nice work. So now he sets off after Brian Bennett, about 5 seconds up the road from here. And you can see those 2 behind him, Thomas Fisher and Andrew Lunsford. And the Maradness cars doing all they can to just hang on to the back of him there. It's 2 against 1. Will that count for anything?
You gotta be careful of that GT3 car to the inside as you get choked up a little bit there. You see Fisher and Lunsford kind of get balked on the corner exit. It's interesting, Joe. The GTD cars, they actually have great mechanical grip, so the apex speed through those slower corners, it's actually better than the prototypes. It just suffers on the braking and acceleration performance ends.
Sure, it makes things a little bit irksome for the drivers at times, but they've done well with it. That was Young Park, actually, that they just passed. That's our leader in the GTD Pro category, and he's got about 4.7 seconds over Floyd Kerr. Now, we saw Kerr make a great move for that second place. I'm kind of curious if he's got the pace to try and catch up to him after doing so, or if this is as high as he'll be able to climb.
Well, looking at the data, it seems like Floyd Kerr is the fastest GTD car on the racetrack currently. You mentioned he's got about 4.7 seconds to make up to Young Park, so he's going to have to keep the hammer down, but he's already extended that gap. He passed Michael Marlowe. He's now put almost 1.5 seconds on that Porsche, so he is headed the right direction.
That should make things spicy. Oh, we got somebody off here in the GTPs. That's the number 92 of Josh Lane, who has already had plenty of excitement, maybe a bit too much this time. He's already got Jimbo Pfeiffer breathing down his neck.
It's a little bit further back. This is for 10th place in the GTP field. Tried to go back and see what exactly happened. It was just a little bit of a solo spin, so I wonder if there's any damage to the underside of this car, Joe. He did kind of climb over a curb at an awkward angle. You know how much downforce they make.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure clattering over that curb does not help things. And I think he may have caught a little bit of the Armco too. So we'll watch and see if he's lost any speed. And this is going to be a good place to test it. Off of a fast corner, Pfeiffer really hassling him, almost gets boxed in for a brief moment as they go by the Audi of Sherburne, but can't do anything quite yet. So it looks like Lane still fast enough.
Yeah, and is able to hold him back, and now they're approaching more GT3 traffic out there, so just going to have to take a deep breath, regather himself from that little bit of a mistake, and put his visor back down.
Exactly. So who is going to now decide to try and take a stop? Because we should be within that pit window quite easily at this stage, and some of the drivers might want to pit a little bit early, although won't be to get themselves much clear air, because I think we've lost a good amount of that at this stage with everybody kind of separated evenly around the track itself. And Lane looks like he does have things under control. He's now starting to distance himself from that white and yellow machine.
Sometimes you just literally need to take a breath out there and cool everything back down. I think that Josh Lane has done exactly that as we jump back up here. This is the 5th place battle for GTP. This is Kevin Binkley, I believe, chasing down Nathan Dowd, and then also Paul Gibson involved in it.
So 4th, 5th, and 6th on your screen. And Binkley is up 3 spots from where he qualified. He's having a very good race here today. Could get one more if he's got enough to try and challenge Nathan. They fly off the newly remodeled Sunset Bend, at least here in iRacing, with that paved runoff now letting you stretch all the way out to the outside. And the Rumble Strip racing car has not caught him yet, but there's more traffic. They go by Marlowe in the GT3 machine, and they've got Floyd Kerr directly in front as well.
Well, this gives an opportunity to that yellow Porsche, the number 31. That's Paul Gibson. But Binkley is able to put the power down nicely out of 5. That's an important traction area. Stretch it out over that number 31 car. But something to note about Paul Gibson, he's the first Porsche in that GTP field that we've got today.
Oh, yeah, good catch on that one. Otherwise, they'd still have the BMW back in 3rd with David Schutt. Nathan Dowd, who started in 2nd place, seems to have lost a little bit of pace since the start. No longer on the front row here. They go through Collier. This is where we had that accident for Josh Lane through this set of corners. All these guys are going to be able to successfully navigate it this time, kicking up a little dirt as they exit off the tower.
You'd be surprised at how fast those GTP cars are through that tower turn section, and then they just accelerate all the way up through here into this turn 15 complex. You see Kevin Binkley get choked up a little bit more with some GTD traffic. Paul Gibson, though, doesn't clear him until the exit of turn 16, so it's actually going to provide the opportunity maybe to Eric Thomas behind this car right here.
Yeah, you're right. He's catching him pretty quickly because of that moment. It's down to 0.3 of a second. Just goes to show there's quite an ebb and flow. You could be the aggressor one moment and you have to be the defender the next.
It also comes down to the relationship with those other classes. Remember, you have to see them multiple times in a race. If you're too aggressive, well, guess what? When the next time you come back around, they might not give you that open door. So you have to balance that playground relationship.
Indeed. And coming up through 3, 4, and 5 now. They seem to have dispersed with most of the GT3 cars, and they can fight amongst themselves once again. But Binkley's really lost touch with Dowd, and it's come back to being between these 3 instead of with Nathan. Understanding that the 993 car may have had an issue. I'm going to go check and see if I can find that.
It looks like one of the cars down pit road right here, so maybe this is the opening of the fuel window. This is Jair Alvarado in his BMW number 113 car, so we'll see if he just takes a full tank of fuel. He was already up on the jacks. That means he's going to take the tires as well. You mentioned this is the fuel window time. This is right about 50% through the race.
And the 993 is actually Staropoli, so if that's the case, it's been something of an awkward race for him. And I did find it. This happened in Tower after he actually ran. You talked about this earlier, Joey. He ran into the back of one of our GTP cars.
It's not an uncommon thing. The GTDs or the GT3s, they carry a ton of mechanical grip, more than the little go-kart prototype. So through the slower corners, they roll more speed through Apex.
Not something you think would happen, but yeah, just so much quicker coming off the turn, and did not expect it. The two came together, and that sent him around. Meanwhile, who's this down pit lane? That's Paul Gibson.
This is the first of the GTP cars to blink in that fuel window. This is the Porsche, the number 31. So we're going to see the floodgates open up here on pit lane. I expect everybody to be coming soon.
Also, did we mention that Alex Caruso has pitted from the LMP2s? So he's all the way back to the tail end of his field, but he's now done, and actually looks like he does have quite a bit of clear air.
And that's a great point that you bring up, Joe, is that if you come out of your pit stop into traffic, you are not making the time. So Alex Caruso being in that clean air, he can go out there and set the fast lap times, really kind of take advantage of that undercut that he's trying.
Not something you see as often in the sports cars here in iRacing. They tend to like to run completely dry and then take the fresh fuel and tires and get back out there. But maybe it'll do something for him. we'll have to wait and see. Nobody else in those LMP2s have taken their stops, but this looks like, I spoke too soon. Robert Tinsley is going to be the next one.
I just think this is a prime opportunity if you just want the easiest strategy possible. We are 50% of the way through the race. You should be able to make it from here, although I question some of them. Are they doing the short end of the stick early and then now going to stretch it the long distance? Or are they really, this is all they've got?
Not sure. We'll have to watch and see. Somebody else in the GT3 is also exiting. That was Dale Green. He returns to the track. Himself and Jair Alvarado have both taken their pit stops and slowly returning to the track. Tinsley is done, while Robert Cast just finishes, and Caruso is easily past both of them.
Exiting out of turn number 1 pit lane, heading down into turn 3. This is that Alex Caruso car leading the way, and I do think that the cars can make it all the way from here on fuel, with everybody being able to stretch it past halfway. If you came in a little bit early, it's just really to try that undercut, get into clean air.
Yeah, most likely. I can't imagine that would be that tight, especially with so many other cars getting up this far, or else we'd see pretty much everybody diving into the pit lane as well. But no such luck, so we'll have to just watch and wait to see how the rest of the strategy flows. Max Muir is flowing through the various bends at the end of the lap. He hasn't pitted yet. Let's see if he elects to try and split this one close to in half.
This is Jeffrey Ooms. That was our LMP2 race leader. So he is now hit pit road. Carter Kundinger looks to be staying out on the racetrack as of right now. So he's going to cycle back out into traffic and see where he comes out.
Ooms finished second last time. I think he'd like to try and rectify that this time. So pitting here just about exactly halfway is behind him. See more drivers in. Vance Bow. Looks like Adam Satterfield. All of these are LMP2s taking their service. Highest one to have pitted might be Ooms. It depends on where Caruso comes along. Yes, it is indeed going to be Ooms who emerges back in front.
Nicely done by Jeffrey Ooms. Covered Alex Caruso off. Now back out onto the racetrack. I also saw that the majority of our GTP field did come into pit lane. That included David Shutt. Only Max Muir, Kevin Binkley, and a few more have stayed out on the racetrack.
I'm sure those cars a lot more interesting to try and plan out the fuel usage, of course, Joey, because the GTPs are hybrids. So I'm sure there's some fuel saving shenanigans that they might try.
Well, I mentioned, do you come in and do the short stop early or do you do the long stop early? Here in iRacing, the lighter you run the car on fuel, it really gives you a performance advantage. So if you stop early, you're actually filling it up more with fuel, so you have a heavier car for longer. I think that's why you see some of these cars stretch it as far as possible.
Ooh, big battle here coming through Sunset Bend in our GTDs. And this is the fight between, well, it was the fight between Kudrowski and Marlowe before he heads down. Marlowe was on the podium. He hasn't stopped yet. Did we miss an incident that Marlowe had?
So, maybe.
Yeah. I see it. Last lap was 2:19. That's way slow. Oh, yeah. He had a self-spin in turn 1, it looks like.
Oh, that is so unfortunate for that number 78 car. He had a great outing at Daytona. Check out exactly what happened. I think it was just the bumps and the combination of the Porsche. It's a little bit of a pendulum effect there in turn 1. Got too loose and around it came.
To his credit, he actually is still on the GTD Pro podium. He's still in second in that class, but overall he's 5th right now. And just not having a great time, but he'll keep on keeping on. I just don't think he'll have much to try and threaten Young Park, who might be able to go 2 for 2 after finally breaking his duck and getting his first win.
And we have to remember, I believe it was Michael Marlowe that ran out of gas at Daytona. Remember, he parked it up onto that banking before crossing the checkered flag. So unfortunate, another mistake here. Hopefully he's got enough fuel in the tank to make it, though.
think he should be able to. I mean, that'll be more down to... our leader, Max Muir just ran into another car. Sorry to jump around. Josh Lane, actually, one of the lowest cars in his own class, just made hard contact with him, and that pushed Josh off into the barriers. Now the question is, does Max also have some sort of damage?
I went back and took a look at this. We're going to see if our leader comes down to pit lane. Remember, he hasn't yet. I think this is a prime opportunity. Dive down to pit lane, see if there's any damage. No, the number 69 car stays out on the racetrack. He's confident in what he's got.
The other thing is they do hand out penalties post-race if you have contact that they deem, worthy of it. So I don't know. I didn't get a very good look at it to see if he's to blame there, but they're going to come into Jean Debian. That's a very fast corner. Ooh.
And I looked at it from a couple different angles, Joe. I do think that there was some pretty bad ghost contact, some net code that started it, and then it kind of got worse from there with that yaw angle.
One of our fellow commentators, or at least was for some time, haven't got to work with him a while, Dawson Brock, down into pit lane in the number 22. Wonder if he is going to be able to emerge back on the podium since he stopped in from the podium, taking fresh tires, just going by him. That was Michael Marlowe taking his service. So he's had his spins and is going to take the opportunity to pit, even though Muir did not. Still waiting for Brock to go down off the jacks. That is Bradley Haley returning to the track from the LMP2 cars.
I believe chasing Brian Bennett out of the pits, and I think that's really going to do it for the LMP2 class in terms of their pit stop cycle. I don't see anybody else to pit yet. So Jeffrey cycles out in front, Carter Kundinger in second, and Alex Caruso in third.
Brock returns in 8th position, but we're still waiting for Eddie Layton to pit. Also Max Muir, of course, but Max is definitely not going to be near to Dawson Brock based on what we're seeing at this point. Muir ticks off lap number 21 into lap 22 now, and we're 23 minutes left to go. Once again, does look like the fuel window is quite wide.
It does. I think the first cars that we saw come down were about 32, 33 minutes or so, maybe even further than that in terms of time left in the race. And here we are on the other side of that. So I would expect the leaders. There's only 2 cars in GTP that haven't pit. And the other thing is we haven't talked much about this GT3 pit stops. They are just coming into pit road. Traditionally, they can stretch it a little bit further.
Exactly. And we saw Max Muir just took the fastest lap of the race. That is worth a bonus point within your class. So that will be important. Dornenberg not only took the win last time, but also took the fastest lap with it. So he kind of needs that to try and match with Dominic here in the second round. Ooh, that was awful close down into turn 3 between what looked like 2 teammates, actually.
Yeah, that's Young Park and Carter Kundinger. So 2 real leaders on that composite racing team. There, Carter goes in the LMP2. And remember, Young Park is our GTD leader. He's our pole sitter from today and also Daytona winner. I'm checking. He's stretched out 10 seconds now over Floyd Kerr.
Yeah, it's looking like a very collected race by the number 77 car here today. Kundinger only 3.5 seconds behind though, so he's still in with a shout. He's just going to have to start to turn up the wick or hope that maybe Jeffrey runs into some problems along the way. I think Chris Sherburne, William Brennan, and Max Muir are now the only drivers we're waiting on. Scratch that. That's Max Muir right now.
It'll be interesting to see how he cycles out, how far ahead Max Muir is going to be, because I'm checking out where Dominic Dornenberg is. Here he is. He's now just approaching the tower turn, so our GTP leader should come out comfortably.
We got a 3-car battle for 3rd place in those GTPs. Thomas is being hassled by Dowd and Binkley. I thought that was Binkley going by him. No, it is. Actually, there is Binkley. Binkley now having to try and go by Thomas Fisher. Sorry, a similarly looking LMP2 car is trying to let them through. And they've also got Paul Gibson still in this group. Now, these cars have all been kind of close to one another, but this is the tightest we've seen the entirety of this pack in some time.
It's pretty impressive. 4 cars battling it out for the last step on that GTP podium. So here we go. More traffic. Kevin Binkley is trying to go too wide here. See what's going to come through turn 17. Actually, this is a little bit further up here. I believe this is Nathan Dowd moving through the traffic. There's just so many GTP cars, LMP2 cars. You got to keep your head on a swivel.
Saw the car of Nathan Dowd have to swing across the track there to go by the LMP2, trying to keep his momentum, keep his foot in it. Next one is Bradley Haley, another of our LMP2s. He wants down to the inside, can't quite get there. Haley tries to leave him room. That's just going to slow both of them up.
Oh, and then you see Binkley almost get into the back of that LMP2 car, really got checked up coming out of turn number 5. That's going to give the run opportunity. Got to get by another GT3 car, head down into the hairpin, down a few gears, and do it all over some more.
This is getting really mixed up out here between these 2 prototype classes and having to deal with the GT3 cars at the same time. So they've got all different stuff happening around them. They've got to track as well as trying to battle with those cars in class here for a possible podium. Eric Thomas doing his best to run away. He's the first to hit anybody in terms of that traffic. And it has to try and scythe his way past Big Wiggle there, coming off of Tower Turn from, I think that was Dowd.
Yeah, it certainly seems like Binkley might have a little bit more space as Dowd tries to clear an LMP2 car. Binkley sweeps around the outside. Oh, that was really close with that LMP2 prototype, but crucially is able to clear him. Dowd is able to scoot away, but I'd keep my eye on this one. I think the 75 of Kevin Binkley, he's going after that number 7.
I think you're right. By the way, we don't have to go to it, but Max Muir, 15 seconds ahead after that, the pit stops are all done. He has really got this one in his hands at this stage. Continue to watch on board the battle for the last step on the podium, just hovering behind Dowd. Binkley wants to catch up to Thomas, wants to dispose of this number 7, but he can't quite get there yet.
To one of the slower sections of the racetrack here into turn 3. Got to really be patient up and over these curbs here. Big time power down traction event leaving turn 5. Looks like Dowd is able to get a nice run out. Not too long of a straightaway here. It's not going to be close enough for Binkley to poke his nose down.
He's going to have to get a lot closer to that rear wing if he wants an opportunity. He's got to watch out, though, because Paul Gibson is just hovering behind the pair of them as well. If he makes a failed attempt, that could open the door easily. There you see him right now in that white and yellow machine down into the braking of Cunningham, all line astern for the time being.
It's going to get a little bit busier, though. You see just in front of these cars, more traffic. So Nathan Dowd, how aggressive are you going to be? Kevin Binkley, does he try to take advantage of any opportunities?
It's Vance Bow, who's in the LMP2s. That's going to hold up Nathan Dowd a little bit, slows his momentum. Binkley sees his opportunity, almost runs into the back of him.
I think there was a little bit of contact there between Binkley and Dowd, and now Dowd, again, a little bit of cautious through 16. Binkley and both of them get checked up. This is going to give the run to Paul Gibson.
Oh, he's loving this. He gets 1. Can he get 2? He'll have to be brave on the brakes as well as trying to overtake Vance Bow, who stays off the left-hand side this time as they swing it into the corner. Can't catch up to Nathan before they have to hit the brakes. Binkley now has definitely lost that spot, though.
You saw Binkley almost get into the back of that yellow number 31. I think he was expecting Paul Gibson to maybe go a little bit deeper into turn 17, but thankfully no big severe contact between the two.
Yeah, they'll carry on. And Nathan Dowd now looks up to Adam Satterfield in front of him. That might be the teammate of Eric Thomas, but he's in a different class. So he's going to want to try and put him behind him quite quickly. And there he is able to use the extra speed of the faster GTP car to slingshot his way past, although he goes a little deep into the corner in the process.
See how this all plays out here. Paul Gibson's going to get around. Dowd is able to run away. Can Binkley clear him down here into turn number 10? Looks like he will as well. So the fight continues on.
And this is pretty much one of our closest fights out on track right now, especially for the higher positions. out there. I'm keeping half an eye on Ooms and Kundinger because they're about 3 seconds apart, and that's for the lead in LMP2, but they're just a little too far apart for anything interesting at this stage. That could change quickly, so watch this space. Down into Jean Debian one more time. Dowd going to try and launch himself onto the Ullman straight as best he can so that Gibson can't threaten him, and I'd say he did a pretty good job of it.
And I've noticed Gibson not very fast on the top end. Really look at Kevin Binkley start to reel it in on that middle car, and Paul Gibson's got a heavy slipstream, so either he's got damage somewhere on that car or he's just got a lot more wing angle built into it. That's
a good point, and it could be from that last-minute contact, or actually, was that Binkley? I think that was Binkley that I'm thinking of that got to the back of Dowd there. So Gibson and his Porsche, the only one breaking up the Cadillacs because the top 7 see only that single Porsche amongst them. Everybody else is the Caddies here in the GTPs, at least in race 2. Now it looks like they've got a bit of a stalemate at this stage. Nobody really able to do anything to one another.
And I believe this is the battle back here for what is 7th place overall in GT3. This is Mark Kudrowski hunting down Shane Hunter, and it's actually the 3rd place in GT3 AM, or GTD AM, I should say. Mark Kudrowski is in this Porsche chasing that black, red, and white BMW of Shane Hunter.
Hunter finished on the podium last time, and now looks like he's going to lose the podium here to Mark Kudrowski unless he can fight back. He slots back in behind him, and this is the 7th and 8th overall between these two. But like you heard Joey say, this is for the podium within the GTD AM, so this is going to be important to these guys to keep racking up those stats.
Oh! Binkley and Gibson just had contact here in turn 16, and they're both in the tire wall. I just briefly caught the end of it, but this was another stack up in traffic, Joe. Binkley was poking his nose down in there and collected both of them.
Binkley got on the radio, gave a sorry to Paul, and yeah, looks like they both had pretty big hits, and there you can see it. Looks like the curb really, I think, unfortunately, him going over that is what kind of bounced the car into the side of that yellow machine.
Agreed, but he was in way too deep to get there in the first place. Just unfortunate to see. You saw Gibson check up because he had traffic in front of him. He couldn't go any further, and I think Binkley just maybe didn't see that traffic in front of Gibson, or maybe wasn't expecting him to check up for it. Either way, just unfortunate.
That means it is now all caddies in the top 5, and you have to go back to Eddie Layton in his Acura in 6th to finally break that streak. There he is right there. In fact, I think it's one of 2 Acuras racing. I'll have to double check if he's the lone one, but the 73 flying the banner for everybody else, essentially, at this stage with 12 minutes left to go. He's up 5 from where he started, so Eddie's actually doing a pretty good job.
Kind of a little bit of a lonely race right now. He's got a ways to go catch Dawson Brock. If anything, he's got to worry about Jimbo Pfeiffer right behind him, although they're doing near identical lap time. So as long as Eddie keeps doing what he's doing, he will stay consistent out there.
Yeah, he is the only Acura, it turns out, in the field here of these GTPs. But I guess he's not regretting picking this one today. But that means our battle for 3rd is definitely kind of split up. Eric Thomas winds up winning that fight in the end. Nathan Dowd about 2 seconds behind him, so he could catch him. But sounds like we might have had something happen to Bradley Haley down in the LMP2s. Trying to see if I can find that.
I see that Bradley Haley and Thomas Fisher are running together. So this happened in turn 10. It looks like Bradley Haley has a little bit of an innocent spin by himself. And then as he gets going, Thomas Fisher doesn't really have anywhere to go because Bradley Haley's on the racing line.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to do much good between himself and the stewards on that rejoin. Let's watch from Fisher's perspective. Yeah, I don't think that's really the best of rejoins, that one.
And it's tough in Haley's point of view. He's just rejoining the racetrack from a pretty harmless little self-spin, but you're right, it affected another competitor. The angle of that rejoin was the problem.
Yeah, right into the racing line, almost perpendicular to a degree. But Thankfully, they both got away with it, just slowed both of them down considerably. And if there was contact, it was light contact in the end. So we carry on to the final 10 minutes of this race now. If you've never watched an Autobahn Sportscar Challenge race, then get ready, because this is usually when things get a little bit wild in most of their events. And in fact, are we going to have some of that right here? This is not a battle, excuse me. Thought this was maybe Dowd catching up to Thomas.
He was a little bit closer to Nathan Thomas maybe about half a lap ago, but it was all that ebb and flow of the traffic. Joe kind of stretched it back out, and nothing really to cover on camera. But a few laps ago, I did notice Michael Marlowe got around Eric Starapoli. That is that final position on that podium for the GTD cars.
Also, Franco Margarella, remember, we were talking about him wanting to take the lead away. Well, that's exactly what he's done. He's our leader in the GTD AMs. I know we haven't given them a whole lot of love, at least at the front this race, but be curious to see when that switch around happened.
I think the other thing that's caught my eye, Joe, right now, is look at how much Carter Kundinger is really closing it in on Jeffrey Ooms. Remember, Ooms had it up, about 5 seconds or so over anybody in class, and Carter Kundinger was just under 2 seconds, got a little bit choked up by a GT3 car there, a hairpin, but he's starting to bring it down.
Interesting. Yeah, I said it was about 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds, so he's doing what he can to try and capitalize on whatever opportunities are there. And Carter is a veteran of this series. I think he knows that it's not over till it's over, and he's got to keep pushing just in case the opportunity arises and he can make a pass on Ooms. As somebody takes the long cut at the hairpin, that's Satterfield.
Exactly what happened here. This is in that LMP2 class, and he's 7th in class. You're right, he did take the long cut. Honestly, Joe, there's some GT3 cars. He did the right thing here. He tried to outbrake him. He realized he was in way too deep. Don't even try to turn. Take that runoff.
I just cannot imagine, I think it's pre-1991, racing that hairpin with that barrier right there, because they are flying in. But they used to do that exact line that he took there and did it for many, many years before they changed it in the name of safety here, which still gives us plenty of action, I must say, into that little corner. But it does look like we've still got that battle kind of bubbling between Ooms and Kundinger as we watch down the backstretch here. I think that was Satterfield just recovering himself. This is the car of Ooms, our leader in the LMP2s, ahead of Kundinger. It has stretched back up a little bit. It's now back up to 2.6.
Carter got held up a little bit by that Porsche there in that 3, 4, 5 complex. Really, this is a problem.
Wow.
Who is this? This is onto pit road.
Alvarado.
This can be a problem usually with contact halfway through 17.
A very strange place to be. Actually, it looks like he was trying to turn the car around. He didn't end up there initially, but he did self-spin off into the barriers on Sunset Bend and was kind of facing the wrong way for quite some time. Thankfully, everybody was very heads up and nobody hit him before he was able to kind of pull off to the side like he did.
You're right, Joe. This is definitely one of the more interesting ones that I've seen, but you're right. Didn't really affect anybody else. And thankfully, didn't get a black flag from it either. Watch, he has a big old tank slapper here on exit, and then he bounces back into the racetrack, and he's just waving at everybody, trying to figure out, how do I get this thing turned around?
Yeah, this has got to be scary. You got to be very careful so that nobody's trying to move to your left-hand side to get around you, and thankfully nobody did. So he was able to pull off, whip it around, and get going. I don't know who was in the Porsche next to him when he had that tank slapper, but they got extremely lucky.
It was very, very close out there, and then you saw the struggles of having a traction control car and trying to spin it around. It just doesn't work very well.
Got to make sure and map those buttons so you can turn that off when you need. But looks like he did eventually and was able to get rolling. Just lost a ton of spots in the process. Did we lose Paul Slavonic, though? I think he had to disconnect, maybe. I'm going to check on this because he disappeared very suddenly. Yeah, I think this is a connection problem for the 528. That's a real shame because he was looking at the top 10 in the LMP2s.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Paul out there as we watch. This is William Brennan diving down underneath James Stacy. This is a GTD AM battle. This is one of the only Lamborghinis. We were talking about how the Porsches have really been dominating the front of the field, and this is one of the only Italian cars out there that I've seen.
I tell you what, Max Muir may have scored a 0 last race, Joey, but his gap to Dornenberg today is 25 seconds. And this is in the sprint format. This has been just Max's day.
It's a clinic. And I look at the GTP podium from Daytona. David Schutt, no longer running. Paul Gibson, no longer running. Dominic Dornenberg, our winner. You're right, 25 seconds plus behind Max Muir. So an absolute clinic. If you click with Sebring Raceway, it just works for you, and apparently it does for Max.
Well, the driver from Georgia has hopped across the border and seems to like this Florida circuit quite well. As long as he can go another 4 minutes and not run into anything, he'll be good and take a checkered flag here to make up for the big old goose egg on his scoreboard from the first round. Got a little bit of a fight here, I think, between Jimbo Pfeiffer and Eddie Layton. I mentioned Eddie was 6 in that Acura. Well, he's trying to keep the Porsches from being able to claim that top non-Cadillac spot.
Yeah, looks like Jimbo has kind of closed in that gap a little bit. I'm seeing him close it in a little bit more with that slipstream, but not as much as what we've seen with some of those Cadillacs. We were mentioning Paul Gibson in his Porsche didn't seem to have the top end, so I wonder if the Porsche may be a little bit more well-rounded overall versus having a strength down the straightaway.
Grand Pride on the line for this one as they come off of turn 1 and down towards turn 3. They go around Shane Hunter, having to really chuck it in too much, though, as unfortunately for Pfeiffer, the car goes completely around, and great heads up by Shane Hunter not to make that a 2-car accident.
You saw Jimbo wait for another car to go by, so he rejoined nice and safely. But unfortunately, yeah, you're right, the battle does disappear. Good heads-up driving there from Shane.
Well, so for the final 3 minutes, is it going to be calm for once here in Autobahn? I would not place money on it, honestly. I'm pretty sure we still got enough time for things to go haywire once again. Maybe not with Muir, but you never know. He flies down into the braking of the hairpin one more time. He should get the white flag next time across.
He's had it all to himself recently, really. The entire race. He's had some close calls there in traffic that we were able to cover right before the pit stop. So maybe that's been the only kind of catch your breath moment for Max. Everything else, it's just been a relative, kind of almost like a practice session turning laps.
Certainly. If his races are going to go like this, then somebody's going to have to do something drastic here to try and catch up to him. I don't remember him being this far ahead at Daytona. So much has happened in the in-between. I got to go back and check and see what exactly took him out there. But he flies down the Ullman straight. And is this actually going to be the last lap? It's going to be close, I think.
It will be very close. We're going to have to see here. He'll have to cross the line in about 15 seconds in order to make it another lap, so about another 10 seconds. Yeah, I think we will get an additional lap here, Joe.
We will indeed. So yes, 2 laps to go for Max Muir. Hope everybody planned their fuel out on that one as well, because sometimes that can happen if you try and cut it a little bit too close. Give it that extra lap in the tank just in case, to make sure you don't have a situation like we had with, who was it? Was it Marlowe? That parked it there, unfortunately. Interesting story about that. That was how the Daytona 24 was actually won once, is the lead driver ran out of fuel, so he parked it at the top side of the banking and then let it coast across the line when the time ran out. He had such a lead, he could do that.
This is Satterfield going around Vance Bow here for what is 6th in LMP2. Watch a GTP car come up the right side there. You were talking about the fuel games. I actually think that Vance Bow might actually be struggling a little bit. He's very sluggish coming off of the corners. Either that or he's got heavy rear tire wear.
Looking at his lap times, doesn't look like they've dropped off. That was a great run by Vance. Satterfield doesn't have much defense. He leaves the door open. Are they going to go side by side into Sunset Bend? And if so, who's going to win this game of chicken? Deeper into it for Satterfield. And he is going to hang tough around the outside, but unfortunately, doesn't look like that's going to work out in the end. He has to slide in behind him. He's still going to try and fight for it. In fact, he's going to dive down to the inside, coming down into turn 1 and see if he could pull the move right back on him. No, nothing doing as the white flag is out for Muir.
Continue on this battle here through turn number 3. We'll see if Vance Bow can stretch it out. They're actually going to have a GT3 car right in front of him. Looks like Bow does put the power down, so Satterfield continues to give chase here. It's not going to happen down at the hairpin. It all depends if Bow can clear this GTD car. He's got the nose down to the inside. Can he get around him? Yes, it looks like he will.
Lights flashing, making sure that car knows that he's going to be there, but it doesn't help on the exit. Here they go again. Satterfield with a better run. He's getting a lot of opportunities, just can't seem to make it work. Coming down into Cunningham, deeper on the brakes for Vance Bow once again, and he is ahead.
I've seen Bow really struggle to put the power down coming out of these slower corners, so let's see through the tower turn here. Can he roll onto the throttle, keep Satterfield behind? But no, Satterfield, once again, a pretty good run.
Coming up towards the braking for Jean Debien here. Going to be hard to make the pass into that one. Nothing doing. Maybe he could set him up off of Le Mans. Going to look for the better exit off the corner. Both of them taking it right out to the dirt. But it looks like Bow is going to be safe. They'll get one extra lap to try and settle this, though.
Yeah, our leader is coming around turn number 16 right now. This is P2. This is Dominic Dornenberg.
He's got such a lead over Thomas, though. He's still got 16 seconds ahead of him. So the top 3 cars were way far apart by the end of this one, despite the shorter race distance. And Max Muir has absolutely stomped the field in that number 69, taking his first win of the season.
Extremely dominant performance there from the number 69. Just putting everybody else to shame today in terms of those lap times. And this is P2. This is Dominic Dornenberg heading down that back straightaway. All he's got to do is clear these GTD cars, and he will put that P2 on that podium.
We might want to go to the LMP2 lead, though, because Ooms has been held up by a little bit of traffic, and it's down to 0.7 of a second. I'm trying to make sure that he's okay on fuel, and that's not another potential reason that he's losing time here. He's got enough of a gap. He should be okay, although the lapped car of William Brennan in front of him might play a spoiler. Is William going to pull off to the side to let him go? No, he's going to take the racing line. And around the outside, it looks like Ooms is going to barely be able to hold on. Carter gave it a right go, but Jeffrey will take the victory.
Really good race there in LMP2, having those teammates finish 1-2. I'm sure they are very proud of what's going on. And now this is our GTD Pro leader. This is Young Park, your pole sitter, your Daytona winner. I mean, there is nothing that Young Park hasn't done today other than be in a position, other than first place. Another dominating day.
Yeah, and I think Floyd Kerr did manage to stay on the lead lap, but the only other driver to do so of the leader here, as everybody else got separated. But Young Park taking back-to-back wins, showing his intentions for this season. Franco Margarella has already finished. He is your winner down in the GTD AM category. Fantastic stuff.
I think that he's taken a victory lap right now because everybody else behind has already finished, so he has already secured that position.
Oh, well, he must have been the absolute last car then. He was going so slow, I just assumed that he was done with things. Or actually, can we ride on board? Is he out of fuel?
I mean, I'm watching him. He's doing about 74 miles an hour. He's coasting down the back straightaway, so he could be out of gas.
It's not sputtering, though. I think he's just doing that victory lap, like you said. So Franco Margarella, third overall, we should say, and also managed to get himself a win in class here for GTDA. Woo, fantastic stuff. Love seeing what they've done with this series, and this season is coming off to a thrilling start here with Max Muir taking the victory overall up at the top for this one. Looks like Dornenberg going to come home 30 seconds behind officially, with Eric Thomas finishing in third behind them, another 15, 16 seconds behind them. Nathan Dowd was fourth as Dawson Brock finished P5. Eddie Layton did get the highest non-Cadillac finish there in sixth, and Jimbo Pfeiffer has to settle for seventh. All of the other GTPs were DNFs today. It was a bloodbath for them. What about the LMP2s here, Joey?
Yeah, your winner in that LMP2 class is Jeffrey Ooms. Carter Kundinger right behind, only a half a second separating those two teammates at the checkered flag. So Carter with a really good finish to that race. Alex Caruso going to finish in third place. A very, very familiar podium to that Daytona, albeit in different order. And then in fourth, we have Robert Tinsey, Vance Bow in fifth. Adam Satterfield is going to be sixth in class. Brian Bennett seventh. Bradley Haley eighth. Thomas Fisher ninth in class. Robert Cast 10th. And Andrew Lunsford is going to be 11th in that LMP2 class.
Young Park kicks things off with back-to-back wins this season in that number 19 car in GTD, with Floyd Kerr finishing in second. Then Franco Margarella, your winner in GTD AM and overall podium finisher. Ed Eisenring was second in GTD AM, with Michael Marlowe in third in GTD Pro, fifth overall. Eric Staropoli is in sixth overall, with Mark Godrowski rounding out your podium in the GTD AM. Then Robertson eighth out of the all of the GTDs. Shane Hunter ninth, Dale Green in 10th, and William Brennan in 11th. James Stacy P12 as Trent Brown finishes 13th, and Dean Kerr in 14th. Chris Sherburne P15 today. Jair Alvarado, with his unusual incident, does finish 16th. Tom Hammond 17th, and Sean Reese 18th. The rest of them had bad days with poor finishes there in the GTD class. Let's see. It does look like, I think, our first winner that we have to talk to is our AM winner in the GTDs, actually, Franco Margarella, who took his time to get back to the finish line, but didn't take his time to come join us. It sounds like he's quite happy about this one, Franco. Was that you just kind of savoring the moment there to the finish? Because we were worried that maybe you were close to being out of fuel.
Yeah, that's what we'll go with. Yeah, that was really close on fuel. I'm just really happy I was able to get it back in. My fuel calculator kept swapping back and forth between finishing with 2 liters or being short by 6. So I think it was just timing with the liter in LMDH.
So it was a little bit of concern there at the end. We actually didn't get a lot of chance to focus on the AM lead. Apologies. At what point did you manage to get by Eisenring?
The AM race got pretty crazy in the first few laps. Unfortunately, he had an incident with P2 in front of me, and I was just able to kind of coast by and then just keep it from there. So feel bad for those two. It would have been a good race to see it finish up with us 3 battling it out at the end, but overall a pretty good race.
Also started out kind of crazy as well. You had to dodge that wreck right at the beginning. What was going through your head then?
Don't hit him. I think I had to avoid, I think, 3 wrecks in the first 3 laps. So yeah, it was an interesting start, but you never know what Autobahn's going to throw at you. So
that is for sure. Well, congratulations on taking the win. This will definitely help you out in that AM category after finishing 12th last time. So can't wait to see it next round.
Yep, thanks. And give me a quick shout out to my team there at Composite Performance, our sponsors with SimLab and Grid Engineering. I appreciate everything you guys do.
That was Franco Margarella finishing with the win here today in the number 11 and 3rd overall in GTD. Up next, I believe we've got our winner in GTD Pro. Joey has caught up with Young Park.
Young Park, congratulations on another win back to back. How does it feel?
Oh, it feels amazing. I mean, I've gone from 0 wins in Autobahn to 2 in a row. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
You are dominating the GTD field. You have a big old team behind you. How much is credit to the practice that you guys do, and how much practice do you put in to be this dominant out on the track?
Oh, quite a bit. I'm definitely not natural at this. But yeah, it's totally about the team. The setup was developed together with testing with the team, and then yeah, we did practice both individually and as a team, just chasing each other around the track, and that all helps.
Well, what do you think has really changed with your performance this season? Because here we are at Sebring. You put it on pole. You led pretty much every single lap that I saw in that GTD field, and you won by nearly 20 seconds. What has changed?
I just been kind of putting in the work, and again with the team, having teammates. This is my first time kind of on like a more serious-ish team, so just getting proper coaching and stuff from the faster guys, and it's just helped a ton.
Well, congrats on that win here at Sebring. Hopefully the good races continue here for you. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just Composite Performance, my team, and our sponsors SimLab and Grid. Yeah, that's it.
Well, that was Young Park driver, the number 77, back-to-back wins here in GTD Pro.
You've got the second place finisher in LMP2 as well, Carter Kundinger. Carter, you managed to put one over on Jeffrey back at Daytona, but not here today. What do you think made the difference?
No, I think, Joe, it really came down to the start. I got caught out by a little bit of an early jump of the start by Jeffrey, and then that just allowed Caruso to get around me. And then Caruso just kind of had some moments where he came right in front of me and then was spinning the rear tires, and it just backed me up and up and up. And by the time I got around him with a move down by the Lamock turn, I was like 6-7 seconds behind Ooms, and then it was just an uphill battle from there. So I mean, considering I was that far back behind Ooms, I'd say that was success, but obviously it'd be nice to be on the top step of the podium.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, speaking of an uphill battle, you almost reached the top of the hill. How hard was your heart beating right there in that last lap?
Oh, it was beating for like the last 30 minutes, Joe. I mean, it was from the moment, when the pit stop started, he was about 5 seconds ahead, and then I took my pit stop, and when I came out and he was only 2 seconds ahead, I mean, it was go time at that point, and then it was just a matter of catching good traffic to catch up to him, catching some bad traffic to fall behind. But yeah, I mean, in the end, I just needed like another lap or two, and I think I would have got him. But yeah, no, honestly, super happy to even catch up to him. I mean, Jeffrey Ooms is a big name in this league, and to be basically competing with him is honestly an honor.
Well, you'll be competing at Silverstone next time. Are you glad to leave the bumps behind and head to something a little more smooth?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Silverstone is one of those tracks you don't normally run multi-class on, which typically those are the type of tracks I'm pretty good at. So we'll see how it goes. It's honestly been a while since I've done a race at Silverstone, so I'm gonna have to refresh my brain on that one. But yeah, I mean, it's as long as I can at least keep up with Ooms, I think it'll be a competitive season this season in P2.
Oh, we look forward to seeing you two go at it again, and congratulations on a podium.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
It's Carter Kundinger finishing second in LMP2, which is going to wrap up our interviews for today. So a big thank you, of course, to the team, Joey and Zach. And as was mentioned, the next race going to be at Silverstone, November 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.